The mirror that remembers. The evening fog stretched over the ancient forest like a silken veil, softening every edge, swallowing sounds whole. The man moved slowly, the damp earth pressing softly beneath his worn leather boots. Each breath he exhaled rose like a ghostly mist, mingling with the chill air that clung to the low-hanging branches. The trees, tall and gnarled, stood like silent sentinels, their twisted limbs weaving a tapestry of shadows and secrets. In the deep hush, he whispered to himself the question that had haunted him for years: what is real? It was not the kind of question meant for an answer, it was more a steady companion, a faint pulse beneath his ribs that refused to be ignored. He had asked it so many times in countless ways, in the brightness of day, in the dead of night, in silent moments when the world felt vast and indifferent. Sometimes, he felt the answer dance just beyond reach, a flicker in the corner of his vision. Other times, it vanished completely, leaving only the weight of uncertainty. Tonight, however, something pulled him forward, a quiet force humming beneath the surface of the world. Ahead, a soft golden light glowed, flickering through the mist like a distant lantern. It was fragile, warm against the cold gray of the fog, and irresistible. He quickened his pace, heart beating with both hope and trepidation. The path beneath him faded in and out of sight, swallowed intermittently by the creeping fog, but the light remained steady, guiding him as if by some unseen hand. As he drew closer, the source of the light revealed itself, a small stone cottage nestled between the ancient oaks. The stones were worn smooth by time, covered in patches of moss that glistened faintly under the dim light. Ivy crawled along the walls, and smoke curled lazily from a crooked chimney. The wooden door, heavy and weathered, creaked open slowly, inviting him in without a word. He hesitated only a moment before stepping inside. The interior was dim, bathed in the soft twilight of dusk that slipped through the small windows. The air smelled of earth, wood smoke, and something else, something older, as if the walls themselves held the memory of forgotten stories. His eyes adjusted to the gloom. Against one wall leaned a tall, narrow mirror framed in dark wood carved with intricate runes. The carvings pulsed faintly, a slow, rhythmic glow that seemed to breathe. But the glass was turned away from the room. Drawn by a force he couldn't explain, he reached out and touched the frame. It was warm, almost alive beneath his fingers. Slowly, reverently, he turned the mirror to face him. He expected to see his own reflection, the tired face of a man weighed down by questions and longing. Instead, he saw someone else. A face familiar yet strange, older, lined with years of weariness and wisdom. Eyes deep and stormy, filled with stories that reached far beyond his own memory. The man's breath caught. His voice trembled as he whispered, Who are you?" The mirror's surface rippled like water, distorting his reflection before words formed in his mind, clear as a whispered secret. "I am the sum of your forgotten truths. I am you, once you have stopped pretending." The man staggered backward, heart pounding, a shiver running down his spine. The question was no longer simple, it had deepened, multiplied. The room seemed to pulse with quiet energy, and outside, the fog pressed against the window panes, soft and endless. For the first time, the man understood that the journey he had feared was only just beginning. He sank onto a worn wooden stool, fingers trembling as he stared back into the mirror. His reflection, or rather, that other self, seemed to watch him with gentle patience, as if waiting for a truth he was not yet ready to speak aloud. "Tell me," he whispered, voice barely a breath. "What must I do?" The mirror shimmered again, and the voice in his mind came, softer now, like a breeze weaving through leaves. "To seek is to wander the edges of yourself. To find is to embrace all that you are, light and shadow alike." The man closed his eyes, memories flooding in, moments of joy and regret, love and loss, courage and fear. The faces he had worn, the masks he had tried to hide behind. The silence deepened around him. Outside, the fog thickened, wrapping the cottage in a shroud of quiet mystery. He took a slow breath, feeling the weight of his own humanity settle within him. "Who am I?" he asked the empty room. And slowly, the answer rose, not in words, but in a gentle knowing, a river flowing beneath the surface, carrying him forward. Time lost meaning in that quiet place. The man drifted into a state between waking and dreaming, where memories and moments blended into a tapestry woven with light and shadow. He found himself walking through the mist once more, but now the fog no longer frightened him. It was a veil, yes, but one that promised revelation rather than concealment. As he wandered, the forest seemed to pulse with life, ancient whispers carried on the breeze. Somewhere deep within, a rhythm beat steady and sure, as if the forest itself was alive, breathing alongside him. His footsteps slowed until he came to a clearing bathed in moonlight. The stars above glittered like scattered diamonds, and the world felt infinite. There, at the center of the clearing, stood a figure, cloaked in shadows but radiating calm. The man approached cautiously. "Who are you?" he asked. The figure smiled, voice like the rustle of leaves. "I am the part of you you have not yet met." A silence stretched between them, rich and full. The man felt tears prick his eyes. "I'm tired," he admitted, voice breaking. "Tired of searching. Tired of questions without answers." The figure stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder, warm, grounding. "Rest," the figure said softly. "Not to give up, but to gather strength. To see that the journey itself is the answer." The man nodded slowly, feeling a strange peace wash over him. In that moment, under the endless stars, the fog inside him began to lift. Pause here. Take a deep breath. Feel the fog in your own mind, the questions, the doubts, the fears. Now breathe out, slowly and fully. Imagine the gentle clearing of space inside you, just like the clearing beneath the stars. Allow yourself to rest here, in the stillness. The man woke slowly from the clearing beneath the stars, though it was unclear if he had truly fallen asleep or simply drifted into a different layer of awareness. The fog of uncertainty still curled at the edges of his mind, but now it felt less like a prison and more like a veil waiting to be lifted. He found himself back inside the cottage, seated before the ancient mirror. The carved runes on its frame pulsed softly, as if breathing with a secret life. He reached out again, fingertips grazing the cool glass. The mirror's surface shimmered, then rippled like water disturbed by a gentle breeze. Instead of his own reflection, the glass transformed into a window, revealing a vast moonlit garden filled with countless versions of himself. There were many faces, some young and bright-eyed, others old and worn, a few trembling with fear, others glowing with joy. One figure laughed freely, arms wide open beneath the silver light. Another cowered behind a tree, eyes filled with doubt and pain. Another sat serenely on a stone bench, watching the moon's slow arc. The man's heart ached as he recognized each one as a fragment of himself, pieces he had hidden, forgotten, or rejected. A voice spoke gently inside his mind, neither male nor female, but ancient and kind. Reality is not fixed, but fluid. You are not one, but many. A river flowing through time, shaped by memory, choice, and dream. To know yourself is to know all your versions. Each is true, each a thread in the tapestry of your being. He asked aloud, voice trembling, "But how can I live as all these selves? They conflict, pull me in different directions." The voice answered, "Life is the dance of contradictions. The masks you wear are not lies but expressions of growth. To become whole, you must embrace the paradox, joy and sorrow, certainty and doubt, strength and vulnerability." Tears welled in the man's eyes. "How do I begin?" he whispered. "Begin by seeing," the voice replied. "See without judgment. Allow yourself to feel without resistance. Walk the garden and meet each self with compassion." Taking a deep breath, the man stepped through the mirror's surface, leaving behind the cottage's familiar walls. He landed softly in the garden, the moonlight warm on his skin. The scents of jasmine and damp earth filled the air. The garden stretched endlessly, alive with quiet energy. He approached the laughing self first, who spun in circles with open arms, breath light and free. "Who are you?" the man asked. "I am the part that dares to dream, that knows joy even in hardship, the figure said, eyes shining. I am your laughter in the dark. The man smiled faintly, reaching out to touch the other's shoulder. Next, he found the fearful self crouched beneath a twisted oak. I am scared, the figure admitted, voice barely audible. I hide because the world feels too big, too cruel. The man knelt beside the self, wrapping an arm gently around trembling shoulders. It's okay to be scared, he said softly. You are not alone. As the night deepened, he met many more, the hopeful child, the grieving lover, the angry warrior, the quiet philosopher. Each shared their story, their wounds, their strengths. By dawn, the man sat beneath a blooming magnolia tree, heart heavy and full. He realized that to be himself, he must hold all these parts, not reject or suppress them. The garden shimmered as the first light of morning touched the petals. The voice spoke once more. The journey to truth is not a straight path, but a winding dance through all yourselves. To live fully, you must love yourself wholly. The man closed his eyes, feeling the weight of that truth settle deep within. When he opened them again, the garden faded, and he found himself back inside the cottage, standing before the mirror. His reflection was clearer now, softer, more real. A smile curved his lips. He whispered, I am many. I am one. Outside, the fog was thinning, revealing hints of dawn. Pause and reflect. Can you see your many selves? Which parts of yourself have you embraced or hidden? Take a deep breath and hold space for every piece of your being. The morning light seeped gently through the fogged windows of the stone cottage, painting soft gold across the worn floorboards. The man stood silently before the mirror, its surface now calm, reflecting only his own face, an honest, less fragmented face, yet still marked by shadows and light. He breathed in deeply, feeling the heaviness of night's revelations settle into a quiet pulse beneath his skin. Though the garden had faded, its presence lingered like a song humming just beneath his awareness. He stepped back from the mirror, then turned slowly to take in the room, the faint smell of moss, the gentle crackle of the dying hearth fire, the weight of ancient stories woven into every stone. The cottage was more than shelter. It was a sanctuary carved from time itself, a place where questions could live and breathe without judgment. He sank down onto the creaking wooden stool, fingers tracing the worn grain as if searching for meaning in its rough surface. Why all these selves? He whispered aloud, voice thin in the stillness. Why can't I be just one? A soft breeze brushed through the window, stirring the candle flames, and with it came the familiar voice, calm, patient, filled with warmth. Because you are not one, it said. You are a river flowing between moments, a story written in chapters. To be whole is not to be simple, but to be complex, to hold contradictions like petals in your hand. The man closed his eyes, images swirling behind his eyelids, the laughing self spinning beneath moonlight, the fearful self shivering beneath the oak, the grieving lover and angry warrior, the hopeful child, each a thread in the fabric of his being. But how do I live like this? He asked. How do I carry so many truths without breaking? The voice whispered, by learning to listen. Listening, not just hearing, but truly listening, became his new task. He opened his eyes and rose, the room somehow larger now, filled with the quiet murmur of possibilities. He moved to the small wooden table by the window and picked up a thin journal, its leather cover cracked and worn. He opened it and began to write. Words spilled onto the page, not just thoughts but feelings, memories, questions, and answers woven together. He wrote of joy and sorrow, courage and fear, the faces he met in the garden, the dance of light and shadow within. Each word was a step deeper into himself. Hours passed unnoticed as he poured his soul onto paper. When at last he looked up, the sun was high, and the fog outside had lifted, revealing a world washed in sharp clarity. He felt tired, but in that exhaustion was a strange peace. Then, suddenly, the mirror shimmered again. He stepped forward, heart pounding, and watched as the glass rippled into a swirling portal of light. Will you come again? The voice asked gently. Without hesitation, the man nodded. He reached out, stepping through the mirror once more. The garden greeted him like an old friend, its moonlit paths familiar and alive. But tonight, the garden was different. The faces he had met before now moved and breathed with fuller life, their stories more vivid, their eyes shining with deeper understanding. A new figure approached, a tall woman draped in flowing silver robes, eyes like deep pools reflecting starlight. "I am the philosopher," she said, voice soft and sure. "I am the part of you that seeks meaning beyond the surface, that questions and wonders." The man bowed his head slightly, feeling the weight of her presence. "Teach me," he said simply. She smiled gently. "The path to wisdom is paved with questions, not answers. To live thoughtfully is to embrace uncertainty, to find comfort in the unknown." She extended a hand, and together they walked beneath the ancient trees. "Consider this," she said. "Every choice is a story. Each moment, a turning point. You are both author and character, shaping your path even as you walk it." The man listened, heart open, as she spoke of paradox and possibility, of the fragile beauty of impermanence and the eternal dance of change. As they walked, the garden around them shifted, flowers blooming and withering in moments, stars flickering in the velvet sky. "Philosophy is not just thought," she said, "but a way of being. It is the art of living deeply, of embracing the fullness of experience." He nodded slowly, feeling the truth settle within like a seed taking root. Outside the garden, the first birdsong of dawn began to sing. The man knew his journey was far from over. But for the first time, he felt ready, not because he had all the answers, but because he was willing to keep asking. Pause for reflection. What questions are you holding right now? Can you hold them gently, without needing immediate answers? Breathe deeply, and let your inner philosopher whisper. The moon hung low and heavy in the sky as the man found himself once more stepping into the garden, a place where time twisted like the ancient trees and the air shimmered with unseen currents. Tonight, the garden felt charged, alive with a different kind of energy, fierce, raw, and unyielding. From the shadows emerged a figure clad in simple armor, worn but polished, eyes sharp and unflinching. "I am the warrior," the figure said, voice steady like the strike of a blade. "I am the part of you that confronts fear head-on, that stands firm when all else trembles." The man studied the warrior's face, noting the scars etched like silent stories across weathered skin. "Why do you carry so much anger?" the man asked, voice gentle but curious. The warrior's gaze softened. "Anger is a fire, destructive if left unchecked, but necessary to forge strength. I fight not to destroy, but to protect what is true." A silence stretched between them, the weight of unspoken battles lingering like smoke. The man took a hesitant step closer. "And what do you fear?" The warrior's eyes darkened. "That I am not enough. That courage will fail me when it is needed most." The man nodded, feeling the warrior's struggle resonate deep within himself. "Then we fight together," he said quietly. "Not against each other, but as parts of the whole." The warrior's armor seemed to soften, the rigid edges melting into light. "Balance is the blade's edge," the warrior said. "Too much fire burns, too little leaves you vulnerable." As they spoke, the garden around them shifted, thorny brambles blooming into delicate roses, fierce winds settling into calm breezes. The man felt strength rising within him, tempered by compassion. "Thank you," he whispered. "For your courage, for your truth." The warrior bowed slightly, then stepped back into the shadows, not gone, but waiting, a guardian of the man's soul. The man walked deeper into the garden, each step lighter than the last. He realized that every self he met was a teacher, every face a doorway into understanding. He sat beneath an ancient willow, its branches whispering secrets in the night air. The garden was no longer a place of fear or confusion, but a sanctuary of acceptance. He thought of the mirror back in the cottage, how it had shown him not just one face, but many. And he understood now that to live fully, he must carry all those faces, all those stories, with gentle hands and an open heart. Take a moment to breathe here. Feel the courage within you, the fierce, unyielding part that stands tall when faced with challenge. Allow compassion to flow alongside that strength.